I'm really glad you're here, Dan.
The media is all over this Native American protest up there, and we need a no BS profile on that pipeline.
Who do you work for? Big oil?
I'm a journalist.
My job is to help you tell the best story you can.
And what story's that?
Whatever you write, whatever you see.
Promise me he'll come back.
You're with me, aren't you, Dan? Welcome to the circus. Sure you're up for this?
That'll move 500,000 gallons a day.
Are you here to redeem yourself or make money for somebody else?
You have a responsibility to tell the truth about what's going on here.
You've had some trouble with some of the workers and some of the Native women. You should do some research.
You know, transporting oil is risky. The question is, how do you minimize the risk?
What did you mean the land is protected by the U.S. Constitution?
Everything you see there legally belongs to the Sioux Nation.
I was hired to find out what's going on.
No, you were hired by us.
Is he a liability?
Yeah, he's the problem.
It was important, Julie. I couldn't just ignore it.
Why? I'm your wife!
We have enough oil to last a century. But it's useless if we can't move it.
We can't have him turning the tables on us. Strong warriors never stand down, even in the face of defeat.
You moved a pipeline right to the mouth of the reservation. It's their only water source.
Just let me explain.
Who wrote this article?
We destroyed their past, but you're destroying their future.
America doesn't run on fairy dust.
That's true.
How's that?
That is fantastic.
Adam, my next door neighbor, nice to meet you.
Nice.
My next door neighbor has a dog that's actively barking. I've got my AirPods in, but I guess I've got all the doors
Cancel
shut.
everything, everybody. Let's just call it a day.
It's done. It's done. Go back to bed. No, I started to say that, and then I thought I don't know what else I can do if it's
Don't worry about
noisy. Okay, great.
Honestly, William, I did this podcast out of the city, New York City, for like years and years before I moved to the woods, and I the number of dogs, sirens, car alarms, I don't know, it just doesn't matter. I think people like it. What gives it, it's not, I do work in radio where that's not something, but for the podcast we're a little looser, it's
Sure. Where in the woods are you?
well, I'm just in the Hudson Valley. I'm not really in the woods, but it's
Got it.
yeah. Where are you?
Los Angeles.
Los Angeles. Yeah, it makes sense.
I shot in New York. I've shot several times, but a few years ago I shot and I had a day off, and my wife came with me, and we rented a car and drove up and down the Hudson Valley. And my God, that's gorgeous.
Yeah. Was it? What time of year was it?
It was autumn. It was perfect.
Perfect. Awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really just unbelievable. I mean, I feel like, moved to paradise and some, of course, spent a fair amount of time in LA and in the surroundings, of course, as well. Not so bad, but I do love it. I do. Although right now it's 40 or something, but it makes you value and appreciate, of course, the summer or the warmer weather all the more because you have the different seasons,
Of course.
So-
Can't have the sweet without sour. Yeah.
Right, exactly. Hey, so this is for me I'm very thrilled because you were around way before what I'm about to tell you, but I came to know you because this was the performance for me that put you on my radar, which was from On Another Earth.
Right.
I don't know if you ever hear that, but I love that film. I just whatever it was that day, but the film itself is so well done. It's like an independent film, but it's very special and it looks fantastic.
Thank you.
Like I think you could have showed it up against this whole genre of science fiction, dramas. And I don't know. From then on I was like, I gotta meet this guy. So I've looked out for you ever since.
Wonderful. That's lovely to hear. Thank you for saying that.
Yeah, my pleasure. Now, also, just to get out of the way, I guess this also, maybe you do get this occasionally. You are, unless I'm mistaken, of course, first cousins or Tom Cruise is he's your first cousin. You're his first cousin. Is that true?
Yes.
And so he has the same last name, but he decided to go change it to or let it go. Is that what the situation was?
Yes.
Mapother. What is it? Mapother?
Just try to. No,
Mapother?
you. It's a long A. You hit the first syllable. So imagine
Okay.
if it had a Y. Mapother.
Mapother. Okay, good.
There you
Thank
go.
you for clarifying. I'm sorry.
Sure. Trust me, it's been mutilated so many times.
I'm sure. My name too. So
How do you pronounce it? Is it Shartov?
That's correct. Yeah,
I got lucky.
But only somebody with another name that could be butchered would, take an extra moment and look at it. It's not that complicated, but okay. Well, anyway, I thought that was an interesting little footnote. I didn't know until I just decided to start reading up a little bit more about you personally. But it was I guess he owes you for getting his career going. That's I'm just
he does.
Anyway. So does he show up at Thanksgiving?
I've learned it's best if I don't talk about him.
You should.
Not
That's
because
fine.
I have anything negative, but not because of you. But things get taken out of context. Again, often not by the interviewer, but things get posted and people take pieces.
Okay. Fair enough.
And
yeah.
So, and I have nothing but fantastic things to say, but it's just easier.
That's all. And honestly, it was only kind of almost a bit because I really don't actually, it's not something I really actually care very much about, other than the fact that it's nice to hear he's a good guy.
Yeah, he's a great guy.
I'm more interested in you and your career. So thank you. And I was wondering, On Sacred Ground is the name of the film we're going to talk about. It's premiering in select theaters and on demand as of January 13th. So I'll post this, I guess, after, so people could go and see it right away after this.
Thank you.
But is this something that it's a very overtly political, just by the nature of the film, what the subject matter, it's impossible not to be. It's a very personal story for the Native American folks that are being affected by the Dakota Access Pipeline. No, the Dakota Access Pipeline.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Is this something that what was your reaction, I guess, when the script got into your hands?
Well, I had known Josh and Rebecca, my co-writers and also the producer and directors, for, 10 years.
Okay.
And our paths intersected several times. And then when they contacted me to be in the movie, I was aware, as I guess most of us were, about the protests and something about the pipeline, but I had to dig deeper to find out more about it. So the character interested me and the story and the background, it did. And then the more I dug and the more I researched, the more interested and the more, I guess, upset I became. So yes, it did interest me. And the more I dug, the more interested I became.
It's a good answer. And so doing something that's kind of very overtly political, that's comfortable.
Well, that's a great question. And I'm going to I will tell you, I'm going to try and keep my answers short. I have a tendency to give long answers, not because I like hearing myself speak, but I'm not a huge fan of sound bites. And so as a result, I tend to give a lot of context, and it's tough to give only the right amount of context. So I tend to overshoot the mark. I'm not super comfortable expressing my political views, not because they're unfavorable or extremist, but just especially in these times.
Yeah.
It's
right. Oh yeah.
It becomes heated. And then the more, and this is only my own opinion and my own preference, but the more my opinion and persona becomes known, the more difficult it is for the audience to forget that
or to separate them. Is what you're saying.
Sorry. Yeah. It's to set that aside when they see me as a character. So in the film is political in some ways, it's not political in others. In other words, it's not necessarily specifically about politics and government and politicians. but it certainly is political in terms of being topical, in terms of politics
Well,
somewhat
anytime,
being involved.
right? I mean, when oil is at play, I guess then it automatically,
You're
right?
exactly right.
Yeah.
So I was interested somewhat, but for me, it was I was more interested because of the subject of the Native Americans and the specific way they were mistreated and the history about how they've been mistreated than about the political nature itself, if that makes any sense.
Sure.
I only had middling success in keeping my answer short, as you can see.
It's a podcast. I request at least 20 minutes typically so that we can have a bit of a more nuanced conversation.
Thank you.
Frankly, I'm not a big fan of sound bites either. I really just don't bother. But what I liked about the script and the characters that you in particular, as well as David Arquette's character, who plays like an oil company senior executive, I guess you could say, is the ambiguousness of the characters, or how, at least how they, like in the case of Arquette's character, how he, presents, right? Like, trying to be progressive at some level, but when you're an oil executive, it's complicated. But your character in particular, because you're a journalist. You suffer from PTSD. You're about to be a first-time father. All these things are kind of background, but you've accepted the job. You need the money. They know you need the money. I'm not sure if they know that, but at least not at the beginning. But it's interesting how your motives are, it's very human. It's not so cut and dry. There you have something a little bit more nuanced because your character's name again, is it David? What's it? Your character's name? Dan, right? Stan?
Yes, no, Dan. It's Dan.
And he clearly, by the midpoint or so, he's going through a significant change, in terms of his values, his thoughts, his ideas. But I liked how it was left a lot more ambiguous because everything's not just so black and white when it comes to things, it turns out.
God, sorry. Hold on just a second.
That's not a great question. I didn't pose that as a question, but I just.
No, I'm sorry. I apologize. I don't know why I'm getting so many calls.
Hopefully you're not missing.
No, I'm not missing
job offers.
First, I want to acknowledge. I appreciate your mentioning the ambiguity of the film and certain aspects and the points of view. And it's something that Rebecca and Josh and I discussed many times. And we wanted to try to capture, in a way that a lot of films and a lot of political films we felt don't necessarily do, some of the ambiguities necessarily involved, not only about the issue, but about the individuals. So I appreciate your acknowledging that. And hopefully it might widen the audience in the sense that, when any of us watches a film that's leans too heavily against what we believe or know, it's easy to push either to turn it off or to push the film and its points aside. Mm-hmm. And so we were trying to hopefully avoid some of that.
Mm. Yeah. Well, and not only the characters have levels of ambivalence or ambiguity, but the subject. It's very clear. Obviously, there's been so many transgressions against the Native Americans, so there's that history, and the history goes up to pretty much to 2016, which is when around the time the film takes place, which again is called On Sacred Ground. And but the fact that we're so reliant on foreign oil versus trying to become self-reliant energy wise, et cetera, like it's crucial because politically we're going to always be sort of at working almost against our own best interests when it
yes.
as a nation and our people, because we're putting money first and oil first. And so, but there's a reality also that we are reliant on it. We all have to put oil in or gas in our cars and et cetera to work.
That's exactly right. And it's gotten further complicated in the last few years because, unless I'm mistaken, the U.S. Began exporting more than it was importing, and I believe David Arquette makes a point during the film that, and some of that is because of new forms of drilling, and I believe David Arquette makes the point that one of the reasons that the U.S. does that is to weaken some of the stranglehold that OPEC and other nations have on the world's oil supply. And so to try to achieve a political balance. So back to the film being political is some of the secondary consequences. And it is complicated. We can't necessarily turn off the spigot, as it were, right now. But at the same time, we have to maintain a longer term view. And it's a difficult thing to capture in 100 minutes. And hopefully, you touch on it enough that the audience gets interested, might expand their viewpoint a little bit, and maybe do some researching on their own.
Did you? I was trying to figure out earlier on when you said, maybe I missed it in the credits. Are you, beyond being one of the stars of the movie, one of the lead actors in the cast, are you also? Do you have other titles or roles in that I missed?
Yeah, I'm a producer and co-writer.
Oh,
with,
you did
with Josh and Rebecca. Yes.
Sorry, I missed that too.
That's quite all right, Dan.
Damn it. I am sorry.
Speaking of research, it occurs to me that when you do a series of interviews like you, I kind of marvel at the preparation required, not unlike what sports announcers have to do. They rattle off the names of the players, they have the statistics, they know the context of the game, what's at stake, and they have to have all sorts of trivia, facts, and color involved. I mean, there's your head must be close to person. Or it's like a student cramming for a test, and the moment you turn in the test, it's just exuded.
It's a bit of both. I mean, I do, there is that sort of background history of seeing, thousands of films over a lifetime, as well as reading and, doing lots of these interviews over many, many years, and doing panels and going to festivals and all that stuff. And you learn so much. And then there's also just cramming, like you say. And, it's also the Malcolm Gladwell thing with 10,000 hours. You just sort of, and there are points through the years where, I consciously said, I need to bone up in some ways, and I typically would have had, if maybe coming out of, I'll just come up with a myriad excuses of why I didn't have it down that you were the producer of the film, but a producer on the film. But I was sensing that I had missed a couple of details.
Not at all.
But thank you. Yeah, but you as an actor lean on, God knows, like thousands of hours of experience that you've had, that you draw from, whether consciously or unconsciously. It's not really that different,
No, that's kind of you.
Yeah. Well, and so wow, I feel like, let me just one more remind people on Sacred Ground, which is currently available on demand. I'll say that because I'll post this as of the 13th.
Okay.
And it stars David Arquette and as well as William Mapother. Mapother.
It's a tough one. You hit that first syllable. There you go.
Yeah, Mapother, as well as Amy Smart is in it, and then I do want to draw the emphasis to that. There are quite a number of Native American actors that were cast in here very intentionally.
Yes.
And have do a fine job. And so I guess Irene Bedard. I'm again.
Yes.
It's just lots of opportunities to butcher names. Carrie. Wait, is Carrie Noop?
I think it's Noop. I think it's Noop.
I know,
see, even that now.
terrible.
See, you dig too
David
deeply, and then
Mapother.
you start to drag me down with you.
I know exactly. That's the thankless part. But there's editing. David Mapother, Shay
yes.
Jim, and then also Frances Fisher's in it. She's not Native American, but she almost twirls her mustache at one point, but she doesn't quite do it. And it's directed by Josh and Rebecca Tickle. Tickell. That's much better. I'm not wearing glasses. Anyway, on Sacred Ground. And have you been able to get out over the holidays and see any films on your own or plays or anything? I mean,
I have two. My wife and I have two young kids, and we went to the over the holidays. We went back to the Midwest to spend the holidays with my family. And
nice.
There's a lot of thank you. And there's a lot of catch up time and activity. So we don't. I have, as you might imagine, well, I used to be able to say a stack of screeners, but starting this year, the push to making everything digital became a stampede. And now we receive 2 or 3 screeners. The rest are online codes,
right?
Codes to watch online. So I have a long codes. So I have a long list of those to watch, but I haven't been able to really dive in. We're hoping to starting this weekend.
Yeah, well, I know. I don't know. Do you find like I'm still love the media, and I'm I've been in the Criterion Collection closet.
Oh my gosh!
At the Criterion offices, you should be able to get in there.
I cannot imagine
when you're in New York City.
Okay,
and I was only allowed because they've been supporting independent film a long time, and I was doing something up there one day, and they said you can go raid the closet. Can you imagine? So
oh my god,
yeah, it was a highlight of my life. But I just was wondering, as we kind of wind down, like as an actor, I kind of interested in your, where you are in the, in terms of your relationship to acting as you develop your own projects, I guess, and, try to find things that are of quality and is suitable to you and, which becomes a lot of the work, right? Just I imagine turning down more things than maybe you're, I don't know, accepting or.
Well, that's a very good question. Our tastes change as we age, our priorities and values somewhat. And there's an opportunity cost now that I have a family in terms of leaving town. And I have to weigh the necessity of working and the joy of working with missing my family, not be able to spend time with them. And so that becomes that's a new calculation I never had to make before.
Right.
And also the longer one works, the more different characters hopefully one's able to play. And so if you get an offer or the opportunity to play a character and you think I've already trod that ground, then maybe it's not as interesting as it would have been the first time around.
Sure.
So it does. The calculation does change.
And have you done much theater?
I have done some theater. I did some back in Louisville, Kentucky, where
where you're from. Mm-hmm.
Actors Theater is a terrific theater, and I played Ricky Roma in Glengarry Glen Ross, which
sure.
Oh my God, that was a mouthful. That was a lot to bite off. And I've done several others, David Mamet's, and yes, I've done several others, but most of my work has been on screen.
Right. And you were on Lost. People probably know you from there. But if just letting you know, aside from On Sacred Ground, which is out as of January 13th in theaters, select theaters, and on demand, check out I'm just talking to the general, anybody watching or listening, do check out Another Earth. I don't know. I feel that is just a fine film. I want to show it to my girlfriend because I haven't seen it since it came out, and I would just like to go back and see it.
When I just want to mention that movie real quickly. One thing that a lot of times certain people aren't interested when they hear a film is science fiction, and that film, it's that description, that genre is a little bit deceptive for the film.
Right.
They establish that as a framework, but the rest of the film is the relationship film.
Isn't it always the best science fiction films are kind of fall under that category? I mean,
they do. And so if anybody's listening and think, sci-fi is not really my thing, it's that's it. And I would say the same thing about On Sacred Ground. It's not necessarily a political film. It is a story about individuals and Dan, my character, and how his opinions change, how his eyes are opened, how those affected by the pipeline, the Native Americans, are fighting for their livelihood, for their survival, and fighting to have their voices heard.
Right.
And so both those films, I think, and not that you did this, but both those films, when someone might hear the genre mentioned, might think, I'm not sure that's for me, but I think they'd be doing themselves a disservice if they didn't check them out.
See, that's a very thoughtful, even if it's longer, answer. It's perfect and a
Thank
nice
you.
way to wrap it up. But and I will say, Dan's journey, just as a postscript, Dan's journey is one that's which is really kind of at the center of the film as well, is one of healing from post-traumatic distress disorder.
Post-traumatic stress,
Thank you.
PTSD. Yes,
Stress
sorry.
disorder. And I had one too many disses in there. And being able to finally connect to heal through actually doing something that's, for him was, very cathartic, which was to report the truth and to do that. And then it was the beginning of a healing time and just in time for having a baby too.
A lot going on.
That one was about to walk out, that moment where you came back and for a day or something and you hadn't called her, that was pretty convincing.
And I didn't even have Dan didn't even bring her flowers.
No, yeah. So that was she tapped into something at that moment. Anyway, thank you very much, William. It was really nice to meet you. Really nice to meet you.
You too, Adam. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you bet.
Thank you both.
Bye-bye.
All right then. Thanks, guys. Have a good weekend.
You
Yeah.
too.